each vibration rattling through my chest. I slipped into the nightclub bathroom and pressed my back against the cold metal door, my breath trembling as I tried to steady myself. 3 breaths. That was all I needed. 3 breaths and I could pretend everything was fine again. My phone buzzed in my hand. Again, the 15th time in an hour. Where are you? Why aren't you answering? Don't make me come find you. Derek. He always knew how to twist words into something between a plea and a threat. We'd broken up 3 months ago, but for him, it hadn't ended. Not really. Not in the way it should have. The bathroom door swung open and Maya stumbled in, cheeks flushed, eyes bright from cheap champagne and bad decisions. There you are, she said, breathless. Come on, forget Derek. Some guys want to buy us drinks. I forced a smile, letting her drag me back into the chaos. The club swallowed us whole again, lights slicing through fog, bodies moving like a single organism, the music pounding like a heartbeat trying to escape. I tried to lose myself in the noise, but the tight coil in my stomach wouldn't loosen. I kept scanning the crowd, hoping Derek hadn't. My breath caught. He was here. Derek stood near the bar, face tense, eyes sweeping the room with that sharp, hungry focus that used to feel flattering and now felt like drowning. He hadn't seen me yet, but it was only seconds before he would. The room shrank around me, walls pressing closer despite the cavernous space. Maya, I whispered, tugging her arm. He's here. She followed my gaze, her jaw clenching. We need to go. But it was too late. His head turned. His eyes locked on mine. The shift in his face, recognition, then something darker, made my blood run cold. He moved toward me, weaving through dancers with single-minded intent. Panic surged. I backed away blindly, heart pounding, every instinct screaming run but my legs refusing to move. I spun, desperate for any way out, and that's when I saw him. A man in the corner, tall, still, watching me. His presence was wrong for this place, too controlled, too quiet, too calm while everyone else drowned in noise. Shadows clung to him like they belonged there. He didn't just look dangerous. He looked inevitable. Derek's hand clamped onto my wrist. We need to talk, he snapped. Without thinking, without planning, pure survival taking over, I tore away and walked straight to the stranger. My legs shook, but something deeper pushed me forward. Something instinctive, reckless, certain. His eyes flicked to mine the moment I approached. Sharp, assessing, interested. Sorry I'm late, I said, loud enough for Derek to hear. And before fear could stop me, I grabbed the stranger's shirt, rose onto my toes, and kissed him. It was supposed to be quick. It was. He caught my waist and pulled me closer, kissing me back with a slow, deliberate claim that stole my breath. His mouth warm, steady, sure, like he'd been waiting for this exact moment. When he finally pulled away, his lips brushed my ear as he whispered, low and lethal. You're mine now. He won't touch you again. A shiver ran through me, not from fear, but from the terrifying, magnetic certainty in his voice. Behind me, Derek froze, face draining of color. I swallowed hard as the stranger's hand tightened possessively at my waist. Who did I just kiss? The music outside the club felt quieter after what I had just done, but my heart was louder than everything. The stranger still held my waist like he was making sure I did not vanish. He watched Derek step back with fear that did not belong on the face of a man who had spent months trying to control me. I did not understand what I had started until the stranger finally looked down at me. His eyes were dark and steady, and something dangerous lived behind them. Not danger aimed at me, but danger aimed at anyone who tried to touch me again. Stay with me for a moment, he said in a low voice. You ran to me for a reason. I opened my mouth to tell him the truth, but he lifted his hand and brushed a strand of hair behind my ear in a way that made my whole body go still. He was calm in a way that made the chaos around us feel fake. Derek tried to speak again, but the stranger turned his head slowly toward him. It was not anger in his face. It was something colder, something final. Derek froze like he was staring into the eyes of someone who did not make empty threats. The stranger stepped forward, His body shielded mine. His voice was soft but sharp enough to cut through the noise. She does not want you near her again. This is your one chance to walk away. Derek looked between us, confusion mixed with fear. I had never seen him silent for more than a second, but now he looked like he could not breathe. He backed away without another word, disappearing into the crowd like smoke. My knees almost gave out. I had wanted him gone, but I never expected it to happen so fast or with so little resistance. The stranger turned back to me. His expression changed. Not soft, but warmer than it had any right to be. He lifted my chin with 2 fingers and studied my face like he was trying to solve a puzzle. "You are shaking," he said. "Come with me so you can breathe." I should have said no. I should have run as far as possible. Instead, I followed him through the crowd. The dancers seemed to move out of his way like they felt the heat of something powerful passing through them. We stopped in a quiet corner near the back. Colored lights flashed across his features, but nothing dimmed his presence. He was tall and broad-shouldered and carried himself like a man who never lost control. "Why did you pick me?" he asked. "There were 100 people between us, but you walked straight to me like you knew I would help you." I tried to speak, but my throat was tight. I only managed a shaky breath. He watched every small movement I made as if he already understood the things I could not say. He reached into his pocket and handed me a glass of water from a passing server. "Drink," he said. "You need to steady yourself." I took a sip, and the cold helped. My thoughts cleared enough for me to whisper the truth. "I was scared, and you looked like someone he would not dare fight." A slow, dangerous smile curved on his lips. He stepped closer. His hand rested lightly on my waist again. "You were right," he said. "He would not dare." Something inside me shifted at the tone of his voice. Something warm, something frightening. "I never even asked for your name," I said quietly. He leaned down, as if sharing a secret meant only for me. "My name is Jackson," he said, "and from the moment you kissed me, you became my responsibility." My breath caught. Responsibility. The word felt heavy, final, powerful. Jackson glanced back toward the crowd like he was making sure Derek was gone. Then he returned his attention to me with a steady look that made my heart trip. "I am not letting him hurt you. Not tonight. Not ever." I felt something new rise inside me. Something brave. Something dangerous. "What I did was reckless," I said. "I should not have involved a stranger." Jackson shook his head slowly. "You did not choose a stranger. You chose the right man." His fingers brushed my jaw in a touch so gentle it contrasted with the storm I sensed behind his eyes. And in that moment, I knew I had stepped into something far bigger than I understood. Something that was not going to let me walk away easily. The next morning felt unreal, like I had dreamed the whole thing, but the bruise of fear in my chest told me it had been real. So did the text waiting on my phone. It came from an unknown number, but I knew instantly who it was. "He is dangerous. You need to stop this before it gets worse." "Derek." My stomach twisted, but before I could reply, another message arrived seconds later. "I saw how he looked at you last night. You think you are safe, but you are not. You are making a mistake." I dropped the phone like it was burning me. I had blocked 10 different numbers, yet he always found a new one. He always slipped back into my life, no matter how many times I closed the door. I tried to go through my morning routine, but I kept seeing Jackson's eyes. Dark, steady, unshakable. I had kissed a man like him, and he had kissed me back like he was claiming something he already believed was his. At 12:45, my phone rang. The sound made my heart jump. Unknown number again. I almost ignored it until I remembered the way Jackson had looked at me last night when he said he would not let anything hurt me. I answered. Jackson's voice filled my ear, calm and certain. "I am outside." I froze. How did he know where I worked? How did he find me so fast? Before I could ask anything, he spoke again with a tone that did not allow hesitation. "Come out, now." My legs felt weak as I made my way to the lobby. The glass doors slid open, and there, he was leaning against a sleek black car like he owned it and everything around it. He wore a dark shirt, sleeves rolled up, revealing the tattoos on his forearms. He looked like danger dressed in confidence. "You came," he said, and his relief was so real it startled me. "Get in, I want to talk to you." I hesitated. This was insane. I barely knew him, yet every part of me moved as if pulled by an invisible thread. I opened the passenger door and slid inside. The moment he closed his door, the world outside felt far away. The air between us was tense, filled with something I did not understand, but felt drawn to. He started driving without telling me where we were going. His hand rested casually on the wheel, but his other hand lightly touched my knee as if anchoring me to him. My heart pounded so loudly I wondered if he could hear it. "Derek contacted you today," Jackson said quietly. He was not asking. He already knew. "How did you know?" I whispered. "Because he is predictable and weak. I told you he would try again." Jackson turned his head slightly, watching my reaction. "You should have told me." I felt heat rise inside me. Anger, fear, something tangled and sharp. "I do not even know you. Why would I run to you with my problems?" He pulled the car to a slow stop at a red light, then looked at me with a calm that stole the breath from my lungs. "You kissed me," he said, "and that means something. You chose me when you were scared. That tells me everything I need to know about us." I stared at him, stunned. Us, as if there was already a bond tying us together. He leaned slightly closer. "You are not dealing with him alone anymore. Not while I am here." The light turned green. Jackson's hand slid from the wheel and covered mine with a gentle, firm possession that made fear and relief crash inside me all at once. And I knew there was no going back. The restaurant Jackson brought me to did not have a sign. Just a black door with a gold number, like a secret only the right people knew. When he guided me inside, the air changed. It was quiet, soft lighting, exposed brick tables spaced far apart so conversations stayed private. A server appeared the moment we stepped in and greeted Jackson by name. The respect in his voice was sharp enough to feel. He led us to a corner table that gave Jackson a perfect view of every entrance. I noticed it. He noticed me noticing. "Stay where I can see everything," Jackson said calmly, pulling out my chair. My heartbeat picked up. There was a confidence in him that felt both protective and terrifying. I sat down and tried not to tremble. He took the seat across from me, his eyes never leaving my face. "You are not safe where you live," he said. The words hit me like a cold wind. "Derek knows your patterns. He knows the places you go. If he is desperate, he will push further." I swallowed hard. I wanted to argue, but the truth pressed on my ribs. Derek had gotten worse. He had crossed lines I never thought he would. Jackson leaned forward slowly. "Stay with me for a while, until this is handled." My breath stopped. Stay with him. In his world, in his home, in his space that felt too big and too dangerous. "I cannot just move in with someone I just met," I said. My voice shook even though I tried to keep it steady. His gaze softened, but his next words carried weight. "You did not meet me, Jesse. You chose me. You walked to me in the middle of fear, and you put your life in my hands when you kissed me." My pulse jumped at the memory of that kiss. The heat, the power, the way he held me like he knew exactly who he was protecting. He watched me closely as if waiting for my soul to answer. "I am offering you safety," he said. "Not a cage, not control. Safety. I will not let him think he has any power over you." I stared at the table, but I felt his eyes on me like gravity. Every part of me wanted to run, yet something deeper wanted to step closer. "Where would I even stay?" I whispered. "With me," he said without hesitation. "My place is protected, secure. No one gets in without passing through 10 layers of security. No one touches what is mine." The word "mine" made something warm pulse inside me. I finally lifted my eyes to his. He was not smiling, but he looked certain, like he already knew the answer I would give. Jackson reached out and touched my hand gently, but with absolute claim. "I will not hurt you, Jesse, but I will destroy anything that tries to hurt you." My throat tightened. The world outside felt too dangerous, too unpredictable. But with him, I felt shielded from everything that hunted me. I exhaled a shaky breath. "Okay," I whispered. "I will stay with you." His fingers tightened around mine, like he had been waiting to hear those words since the night I kissed him. And something inside me shifted forever. The first night in Jackson's penthouse felt like stepping into another world. The elevator opened directly into his home, and the city spread out in a sea of lights behind the glass walls. Everything was beautiful, but nothing felt real. Not the marble floors, not the soft lighting, not the quiet that replaced the noise of my old life. Jackson walked me through each room, calmly explaining security systems, cameras, guards, and emergency exits. Every detail reminded me that this was not a normal apartment. This was a fortress. "You are safe here," he said, as he opened the door to a bedroom bigger than my entire apartment. But there was something in his voice that sounded like a warning as much as a promise. I told myself I could sleep, that I could relax knowing Derek was far away and Jackson's world was built to keep danger out. But sleep would not come. I kept replaying Derek's last messages in my mind. I knew the moment he realized I disappeared, he would spiral. Around midnight, I heard the lock beep softly. I sat up startled as Jackson walked into the room, his jacket gone, sleeves rolled up, expression tight. His knuckles were bruised again. "You should be resting," he said quietly, like he already knew I could not. "What happened?" I asked. "Business," he answered, but there was something sharp in his eyes, something I had not seen before. Then he added, "You do not need to worry about it." His jaw was tense in a way that meant trouble. He stayed in the room longer than necessary, walking to the window, checking the angle, checking the curtains, checking the shadows. I watched him, and the truth settled into my bones. He was not just a dangerous man. He was a man preparing for danger. Jackson finally turned toward me. His voice was low, steady, but full of something heavy. "Jesse, I need you to listen carefully. For the next few days, you do not leave this penthouse. Not the rooftop garden, not the gym, not the halls. No one comes inside unless I tell you." My heart dropped. Is something happening? His silence was louder than the music from the club ever was. Then he stepped closer and brushed his thumb across my cheek like he needed to touch me to stay grounded. "Someone is trying to make a move against my territory," he said, "and they know I brought you here." My chest tightened. Why would they care about me? "Because you matter to me," he said simply. "And that makes you important to them. It makes you a weakness they want to test." Fear stabbed through me, but there was something else too, something twisted and powerful. He had enemies because he had a kingdom, and I had stepped into it without understanding the cost. He lifted my face, gently forcing my eyes to meet his. "I promise you nothing will happen to you. Nothing. But I need you safe until I handle this." Handle sounded like a word, soaked in blood. Jackson leaned forward and pressed his forehead, to mine, his voice a whisper that felt like a vow. "I cannot lose you." In that moment, I realized the truth. I was no longer hiding from Derek. I was inside something far darker and far more dangerous. And I had already chosen my side. The next morning, the penthouse felt colder than usual, even with sunlight filling the glass walls. I expected Jackson to be gone like before, but instead he stood in the kitchen dressed in black, talking quietly into his phone in Italian. Every word sounded sharp, like a blade being pulled across stone. When he noticed me, he ended the call instantly. His expression softened, but only for me. "You did not sleep," he said. "I could tell by your eyes." I shook my head. "I kept thinking about what you said last night, about someone watching me." His jaw tightened. "Come here." I walked to him and he took my hands gently, but there was tension running through his whole body. "I am not going to lie to you, Jesse. The situation has escalated." My heart dropped. Escalated how? "There was a traitor inside my circle," he said. "Someone who sold information about my movements and my home. He thought he would get paid for it. He thought I would not find out." Fear rose like a tide in my chest. Jackson leaned down closer. "I took care of him last night," he said. His voice was calm, but his hands trembled slightly. "It is not finished, though. I need you to see something, because if you stay with me, you must know the truth of my world." A cold shiver rushed across my skin. "See what?" He did not answer. He just guided me to the elevator with steady hands. The security guards looked at him with a mix of respect and fear. None of them looked at me. It was like they already understood I was being brought into something I could not step back from. We drove in silence through the early morning city. The streets were quiet, the sky pale blue. Jackson's hands stayed tight on the wheel, the veins in his forearms standing out. I realized he was fighting something inside himself. Maybe anger, maybe worry, maybe both. We stopped in front of a warehouse by the docks. Rusty metal walls, water below, black and still. Jackson got out first, walking around to open my door as if he needed to control every detail. His hand stayed on my back, guiding me forward. Inside the warehouse, the air was cold. Too cold. Lights hung from the ceiling, casting long shadows. Men stood in a line, armed, silent, their faces unreadable. In the center of the room, a man was tied to a chair. Beaten, bloody, trembling. The moment he saw Jackson, he started shaking harder. "That is Marcus," Jackson said quietly. "He sold information about you. He thought the Duca family would protect him after he betrayed me. He thought you were just another woman." My breath caught painfully. The man looked at me with wide, terrified eyes. Jackson stood beside me, not touching me, but shielding me like a wall of steel. His voice dropped lower. "I brought you here so you understand who I am. What I do, what I will do for you. I will protect you with everything I have, but I will not hide the cost from you." My knees felt weak. I should not be here. I should turn around, run, anything. But instead I whispered, "What are you going to do to him?" Jackson looked at me then, truly looked. There was darkness in his eyes, but there was something else too, something almost fragile beneath the steel. "I am going to get answers, and then I am going to make sure he never hurts anyone again." The warehouse fell silent. Jackson stepped forward and Marcus began begging. Jackson ignored him. This was not rage. This was control, deadly control. I should have screamed. I should have looked away. Instead, I stayed rooted to the floor because I understood that this was the truth of the man who had kissed me in the club. The man who had declared I was his responsibility. This was the monster everyone feared. And he was the monster protecting me. When Jackson returned to my side, his hands were stained with blood, but his voice was soft. "If you want to walk away, you can. But if you stay, Jesse, you stay with all of me." My heart pounded so hard it hurt. I lifted my shaking hand and touched his cheek. "I am staying." Jackson closed his eyes like those words saved him, and I knew my life could never return to what it was before. The days after the warehouse felt unreal. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Jackson standing over Marcus, calm, steady, deadly. I should have been afraid of him, but fear was replaced by something else, something harder to explain. Trust, safety, danger mixed with devotion. It made no sense, but it felt true. Jackson was everywhere and nowhere at once. He left before sunrise, returned long after midnight, and every time he came home, there was new bruising on his knuckles or a cut on his arm. He tried to hide it, but I saw it all. He acted like he could keep his world separate from mine, but his world was already wrapped around me. One night he came home so late the sky had already started to lighten. I was waiting on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, trying not to imagine him lying somewhere hurt or bleeding. When the door opened, he stepped in quietly like a shadow. His shirt was torn, his hair a mess, his eyes blazing with something I could not name. I stood up fast. "What happened?" He locked the door behind him and looked at me like he needed to see my face to breathe. "Come here, Jesse." I walked to him, and he pulled me against his chest, his arms shaking slightly. This man, this powerful, dangerous man, was shaking. "I almost lost you tonight," he whispered against my hair. "The Duca family made a move. They were watching your office, planning to take you, planning to use you against me." My blood froze. "Me, why me?" "Because you are the only thing they can use to hurt me," he said. "You are my weakness, and they know it." The truth of his words hit me like a punch. I was not just someone he wanted to protect. I was the one thing that could break him, and that made me the biggest target in his world. Jackson stepped back and cupped my face with both hands. His thumbs brushed my cheeks gently. "Listen to me. From now on, you do not go anywhere without protection. You do not step outside without one of my men. You stay close to me at all times." His voice was steady, but his eyes were wild with fear he did not want to show. "They almost touched what is mine," he said, "and I will not forgive that." He led me to the balcony. The city spread out below us, but tonight it felt smaller, darker, dangerous. Jackson stood behind me, his hands on my shoulders, grounding me. "You need to know something," he said quietly. "I am going to end the Duca family. Completely. They think they can challenge me. They think they can use you. They think I will hesitate." I turned to face him. "Will you?" "Never," he said. "Not when it comes to you." A gust of cold wind rushed through the balcony, but Jackson stepped closer, his body warming mine. He lowered his forehead to mine, breathing hard like the weight on his shoulders was crushing him. "I need you to stay with me," he said. "Not just for safety. I need you because when I am out there fighting, I think of you. You are the only thing that keeps me standing." He kissed me, then, not gentle, not careful, but desperate, like he needed me to anchor him. When he pulled back, his voice shook. "I am going to protect you, Jesse, even if it means burning down every enemy I have." I looked into his eyes and finally understood the truth. Loving Jackson meant stepping into his darkness. And now that darkness was coming for both of us. The war started quietly, like a storm far away that you can feel in your bones before you ever hear the thunder. Jackson left every night with more men. He came back with fewer. Sometimes he returned with blood on his clothes, not his own, but the sight still made my breath break. He said little, but his silence was heavy and sharp, like he was carrying the city on his shoulders. I became the center of a security circle I never asked for. Guards waited in the hallway, guards followed me to the kitchen, guards stood outside the bathroom door. Every window was checked twice, every lock 3 times. Jackson's world wrapped around me like armor, but it also felt like chains. One evening, the air in the penthouse shifted before Jackson even entered. I felt him the moment the elevator arrived. He walked in with a stiffness I had never seen. His knuckles were split open again, his jaw clenched tight, his shirt torn at the shoulder. I rushed toward him, but he lifted a hand, stopping me. Not because he did not want me close, but because he was shaking with adrenaline and rage. He took one breath, then came to me, pulling me into his arms like he needed the contact to stay upright. "3 of my men were hit tonight," he said. "Not dead, but close. The Ducas think taking territory will make me bend. They think hurting the people who protect me will weaken us." His voice became a low growl. "They are wrong." I rested my hand against his chest, feeling his heart pounding hard, fast, angry. He covered my hand with his own and closed his eyes like he was drawing strength from the touch. "I should send you away," he whispered. "You do not deserve this life. You deserve peace, safety, something normal." Then he opened his eyes. They were filled with conflict and fire. "But I cannot let you go. I am too far gone for that. I do not know how to exist without thinking of you." His vulnerability struck me harder than the violence of the past days. This man who made the city tremble was terrified of losing me. That fear was deeper than anything the Duca family could ever do to him. The next day he took me somewhere unexpected, a neighborhood far from the skyscrapers, quiet streets, families sitting outside, kids running around laughing. Jackson walked there not like a king of shadows, but like someone who belonged to every face that smiled at him. "This is why I fight," he said. He pointed to an older woman sweeping her porch. "I pay for her medicine. The bakery across the street, I saved it when the owner was drowning in debt. The school down the block, I rebuilt it after the state ignored it for years." He looked at me slowly, carefully. "You think all I do is violence, and maybe that is all you have seen. But my world is not only blood. I protect people who have no one else. I build what others break. The Ducas do not understand that. They destroy everything they touch. They wanted to use you to hurt me. That was their mistake." As we walked back, he said something that made my steps falter. "When I finish this war, I will come back to you clean. No blood on my hands. No enemies left to threaten you. I want to build something with you, Jesse. Something that lasts." My heart tightened. "What if the war never ends?" I asked. He stopped, turned to me, and placed his hand over my heart. "Then I will end it myself." The promise in his voice was not hope. It was certainty. And it terrified me. Because I believed him. The night the war ended, Jackson came home before sunrise for the first time in weeks. The sky outside was pale blue and I was half asleep on the couch, wrapped in a blanket waiting for the sound of the elevator. When it opened, he walked in slowly like every step carried the weight of what he had done. His clothes were stained, his hands cut, his eyes darker than I had ever seen. I ran to him, but he caught me gently like he was afraid he would break me. He buried his face in my neck, his breath shaking. "It is over," he said. "The Dukas are finished. Every threat, every person who tried to use you is gone." His voice was calm, but his heart was racing. The quiet in his words scared me more than the violence I knew he had done. It was the quiet of a man who had crossed a line he could never return from. I pulled back to look at him. His eyes were tired, but focused on me like I was the anchor keeping him from sinking. "You are safe now," he said. "You are mine, and no one will ever come near you again." I should have felt horror. Instead, all I felt was relief. The kind that went deep into my bones. The kind that tasted like surrender. Days passed. The city returned to normal, but Jackson did not. He was softer with me, quieter, more watchful. He no longer hid his fear of losing me. He held me close at night like he was memorizing the shape of my body. He watched the door every time it opened. He tightened his arm around me every time a stranger walked near us. One evening, he took me to a place I had never seen. Outside the city, a private estate surrounded by stone walls and tall trees. A home hidden from the world. A home meant to protect. "This is ours," he said as he walked me through the garden. His hand rested on my lower back, guiding me gently. "A place no one can reach. A place where you never have to be afraid again." The inside was warm light spilling from tall windows. Rooms filled with soft colors, a fireplace crackling, a long dining table polished like it waited for a family. The kind of life I never thought I would have. Jackson sat me down on a couch and knelt in front of me. He took my hands in his, and for the first time since I met him, he looked unsure. "I want you to stay with me," he said. "Not because of danger, not because of fear. Because you are the only thing that makes my life feel like more than blood and survival. I want a future with you, Jesse. A real one." My breath trembled. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small box. He opened it, and the diamond inside caught the firelight sparkling like a promise. "I should have asked you with flowers and music. I should have waited for a perfect moment. But I cannot pretend anymore. I want you as my wife. I want you beside me in every part of my life. Marry me." His voice cracked on the last words. For a moment the world went silent. Only his heartbeat and mine. Only his eyes waiting for an answer. I realized then that I was already living in his world, already tied to him in ways deeper than rings or vows. He had burned down enemies for me. He had rebuilt a life to give me safety, peace, a future. My throat tightened. "Yes," I whispered. "Yes, Jackson, I will marry you." He let out a breath that sounded like he had been holding it for months. He kissed me with a kind of devotion that shook me, a kiss that felt like a vow. When he finally pulled back, he rested his forehead against mine. "I will protect you for the rest of my life," he said, "and anyone who tries to take you from me will learn what I am capable of." In that moment, I understood that loving Jackson Morty was not safe. But it was forever. The morning after I said yes to Jackson felt different from every morning before. The sun rose slowly over the estate, and the light felt softer, like the world itself had changed. Jackson stood on the balcony, watching the horizon, his hands in his pockets, the engagement ring on my finger still new and shining. When he turned to me, something in his eyes had shifted. A kind of peace mixed with a fierce possession that almost stole my breath. "You are mine now," he said. "Not controlling, not demanding. It was a promise. And I am yours." For a few days, we lived inside a quiet happiness. Jackson stayed close, working from home, keeping his men stationed outside the estate gates. I could feel his relief that the war was over. Yet I also felt the tension beneath his calm, like he expected something else to happen. The feeling proved right. One night, while we sat in the living room, the security system blared a warning. Armed men on the north side of the wall. Jackson stood instantly and pressed me back behind him, his body turning sharp and alert. Fear hit me hard. I thought the Dukas were gone. "They were," he said. "Whoever is out there is not a Duka." His men ran through the halls, grabbing weapons. Jackson turned back to me, gripping my face gently. "Stay inside the panic room," he said. "Promise me." I tried to protest, but he was already leading me to the hidden door behind the bookshelf. He placed my hand on the scanner, and the door slid open silently. The room inside was small, with a bed, security monitors, and supplies. He kissed me hard, like it might be the last time. "You are the only thing that matters. I will end whoever came here. Stay here until I return." The door closed and locked before I could speak. I stared at the monitors, my heart pounding. Outside, shadows moved between trees, flashes of gunfire lighting up the night. Jackson stepped into frame, fearless and deadly. He moved with precision, dropping attackers one by one. He fought like someone who had nothing to lose except me. After minutes that felt like hours, the fighting went still. Bodies lay scattered on the ground. Jackson stood in the center, breathing hard. Then he lifted one of the attackers by the collar, demanding answers. I watched his expression change from rage to something cold and furious. He stormed toward the house, and moments later the panic room door unlocked. He pulled me into his arms, holding me like he needed proof I was alive. "They were not after me," he said. His voice shook with anger. "They were after you." "Why?" I whispered. He took my hand and pressed something into it. A photograph found in one of the attacker's pockets. A picture of me, taken days ago, taken inside the city when I thought no one had been watching. "Someone new has marked you," he said. "Someone powerful. Someone who wants to take you from me." Fear rolled through my stomach, but Jackson cupped my face, steadying me. "I ended the Dukas," he said. "I will end this new threat too. But you need to understand something, Jesse. This is not over. Someone out there has decided you are their target, and I will destroy them before they ever get close to you." "Who is it?" I whispered. The final reveal hit like a blow. Jackson looked me in the eyes with a rage so deep it felt like the house shook. "It is Derek. He is alive and he wants you back."